Welcome back, students. Myself Vishal Pandey, and let us sum up this poem Wind, as it is an eminent poem in your book which you have. If you have any concern about this poem, just go and watch my previous videos. They will help you a lot. It will help you a lot to understand this poem. And 2 videos already I have posted in your group, as you can see. But let us have a discussion. This discussion is totally based upon the poetic devices which are there in this poem, and it will help you to adorn the poem with some gaiety manner. So what exactly the poem is and how a poet can use, and they use ultimately poetic devices to adorn the poem, जिससे कि poem जो है look like beautiful. So what are the poetic devices? There are certain poetic devices, few poetic devices in this chapter. Let us see. If you see in the first and second line, if you see the second and third, fourth line of the poem, it has been starting from don't, and don't. Now here, if you see which poetic devices have been used, anaphora has been used here. Now what is anaphora? Anaphora is the consecutive word, use of 2 or more than 2 consecutive words at the beginning of 1, 2 or more than 2 lines. Let me repeat it again. What is anaphora? Anaphora is the repetition of word in the beginning of a line, the same word in the beginning of 2 or more than 2 consecutive lines. If you have, then there will be an anaphora poetic device. Now if you see don't, and don't, which poetic device is used here? Anaphora. Keep this in your mind. Now next poetic device which I can see in this poem is, if you see anaphora again in the, if you see in the 6, 7, 8 line, if you see here, anaphora once again have been used here. How? You can see you, and again you. So repetition of same word at the beginning of the line. You can see this is called anaphora poetic device. Keep this in your mind. Now second poetic device which is there in this line, you are very clever at poking fun at weaklings. Now if you see in this line, you can clearly observe that personification have been used here. Which poetic device? Personification. It is a type of poetic device which is used for non-living beings but reflect toward the living beings. It will emphasize more on human being, more on persons. For example, you are very clever. Now you are has been used for wind in this poem, but it seems like it has been used for a human being, for a person. That is why it is personification used over here. Let me give you more examples of personification. Have you ever heard that opportunity knocks at the door but once? What it means? That opportunity comes to your door and it knocks at your door but once. And if you see, opportunity is non-living being, but being non-living also, it is coming to your door and it is knocking. So who does the work of knock? Who is knocking the door? Human being is knocking. So human being is coming in the form of opportunities. That is why opportunity knocks at the door. This line has which poetic device, children? Yes, personification. If you see, I have covered 2 poetic devices, anaphora and then personification. Now let us see more poetic devices which are there in this poem itself. If you see next poetic device which is there in this line, frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, and crumbling hearts. Which word is repeating one again and again? Yes, the word is crumbling. Now crumbling is repeating again and again in these lines. So the poetic device which is used in these two lines is repetition. Repetition is a poetic device which is used generally one after another. Next poetic device which we have in this line, the wind god winnows and crushes them all, is alliteration. What is alliteration, children? Alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound in two or more than two consecutive words. If you have in two or more than two consecutive words like wind and winnows, these two words are placed at very similar places, nearest places, and the same word which they have, same consonant sound they are having. So if you have the same consonant sound in a line and that consonant sound is repeated again and again, that it is called alliteration. For example, she sells seashells on the seashore. So you have S sound repeated once again and again. So that is how it is called repetition. If you take example of class 10th poem, Fire and Ice. Yes, if you'll go in class 10th, you just pick a book, First Flight. If you see in that book, Robert Frost has written a poem named Fire and Ice. The beginning lines are like that some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. This is the beginning line of the poem. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. Now some say, some S sound and say S sound. So that is also alliteration because S sound is has been used for two times and it is the same sound. That is why it is called alliteration. Here you can see wind and winnow, W and W. That is for sure that alliteration has been used. So children, I can have some faith on you that you are understanding what I am saying. I have given you already the notes of poetic devices. I have posted in your group. Just go through it, write it in your literature notebook. And the last poetic device which has been used in the next few lines, the few stanzas, at the bottom you can see symbolism. Symbolic is a poetic device. Symbolism is a poetic device. Symbolism is used for reflection. What has been written is written about wind, but rather than presenting wind, it is also presenting the different circumstances, the challenging circumstances, the problems which you face in your life. So you have to be strong enough to face those problems rather than getting yourself in depression and all. So symbolism as well has been used in this poem. So few poetic devices are there. Alliteration is there, anaphora is there, personification is there, and symbolism is there. So four poetic devices are very important, and the last repetition is also there. So five poetic devices have been used in this poem. Just understand those and write them in your notebook. Now let us have some more discussion about this poem. If you see glossary, poking fun means making fun. I have already discussed this. Rafters, what are rafters? Rafters are the sloping beams of the particular houses of roof. Winnow, this is the winnowing work, as you can see. This work is called winnowing. Women are performing action by taking that equipment, that wood made of wood, they are taking in the hand and they are using the help, they are taking the help of wind, and they are winnowing process is going on, as you can see in this on the screen. Now let us discuss the questions. As I told you that I will be discussing the questions and I will be telling you that how you can write your answer. I will be giving you the answers as well in your class group. So if you see thinking about the poem, the first question, what are the things the wind does in the first stanza? This question is very prominent, children. What are the things wind does in the first stanza? If you remember, the poem starts with a line, wind come softly. because it is not coming softly, so it is a request by writer, by poet, that "O wind, come softly," rather than coming destructively. So what are the things used in the first stanza? The problems regarding wind, that wind is coming and it is shaking the windows, the books are falling from the shelf, papers are scattered here and there in the room. So those problems are used in the first stanza. If you see, second question, have you seen anybody winnow grain at home or in a paddy field? What is the word in your language for winnowing? What do people use for winnowing? Give the words in your language. This question will be written by you in your own words. It is regarding your psycho analysis. So take this question as a challenge and write the answer, appropriate answers according to your convenience. Question number 3, if you want to have that, what this question is asking, this question is asking simply that have you ever seen these people in your village doing the process of winnowing the dust particles? If you have seen, write it in your own words. Question number 3 is, what does the poet say the wind god winnows? What does the poet say the wind god winnows? Wind god winnows helps villagers to take advantage of the wind itself. Because of taking the help of wind, they can do the process of winnowing and they can get their crop safe and sound as well. What should we do to make friends with the wind? What can we do to make friends with the wind? As well as what can we do to make friends with disparities, with enemies, those people, those who are known for not behaving well, how we can make friend to them? That is the question mark. So how we can make friend to wind? By making ourselves strong enough to face wind in an appropriate way. Wind is coming towards us to destroy us, to poking fun at us, but we should have to be strong enough so that we can face wind, and in that condition only we can make friend to wind. What do the last 4 lines of the poem mean to you? What is there in the last 4 lines of the poem, children? There is a solution of this poem, that how can you make friend to wind and how you can be satisfied with wind, how can you use its functions, how you can take help from wind. The solution is there. Just read those 4 lines and try to understand. Question number 6, how does the poet speak to the wind? In anger or with humor, you must also have seen or heard of the wind crumbling lives. What is your response to this? Is it like the poets? As you can see in the poem, in the first stanzas, in the first line, in the beginning of the poem, the poet is very much having concern about wind, and wind is performing its cruelty by throwing things here and there. But at the end of the poem, writer has some faith in wind, because if you remember, writer is saying you to make friend to wind. So writer is using humor, as I can say, not anger, because if it is anger, writer will never say you to make friend to wind. So this is how you can understand the questions and understand the poem as well. So don't forget to write these answers in your literature notebook. Thank you so much for watching me and hearing me. I hope you all are getting my points and you getting the poems, the explanation, all, each and everything. Thank you so much.